All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 8th episode of the Triple D's podcast. I'm your host, Devin. I'm here with my boy, David. And today, we got a special episode for you guys. We're going to be going over every single free agent in the NBA. Free agency starts tomorrow at the time of we're recording. We're going to hopefully get this out before deals start being made and everything. But, David, if you want to start, let's get the elephant out of the room real quick because, we haven't recorded in a while, right? It's been like... how long? 3 weeks since we've released an episode? Yeah. It's been a while, so I'll let you take over for the elephant in the room.
Yeah, so obviously the Nuggets, in 5 games, they are the NBA champions for the first time. 47 years in the making, very special for us fans here in Denver. A lot of pain, a lot of what ifs, a lot of, especially Laker losses or losses against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And, I think it makes it more special that the first time we make it to the finals, we actually win it.
Definitely.
And, obviously, you and I, we went to the parade. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll pop it up on the screen here. Bruce Brown came up to us. That was awesome,
Yeah, that was amazing.
He dapped us both up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an awesome experience, once in a lifetime there, we can tell our children's children that we saw the first championship. So we just wanted to get that out of the way. And to transition to free agency, we can start with Bruce Brown and where we think he might end up. Does he stay in Denver, take less money, and, bet on himself to get even a bigger bag? But obviously that comes with risk of injuries and just not playing the same level. I don't think, if he were to come back, I don't think he would play worse, but he would probably stay at the same level. But, I think that, I hate to say it, but I do think that he will not return just because even though he did say that, yes, the money will be there and money's not the number one thing he's worried about, I think that at the end of the day, money talks, and while he would probably look to defend the championship with the Nuggets, I think that he's going to prioritize his future more than another championship run. But I think that he can join another team and help them make a run as well.
Mm-hmm. So before I go into the Bruce Brown, like you said, I could put some clips on screen now, and also if you want to go check out on our Instagram, we went to the watch party for one game, me and David, and then we posted a video on that. And I didn't go with David, but I went to the game that they won the NBA Finals. Like you were saying about the parade was the unreal experience. I'll never forget that night, man. That was just unbelievable, man. Seeing the confetti come down, seeing the celebration happen, seeing the trophy being given out to the players. The atmosphere was crazy. It's just insane night, just unbelievable. And then we went to the parade. It was amazing. That was the first time I've ever experienced a hometown team that much win a championship. So that was really amazing for sure. But Bruce Brown, so it's I feel like my opinion changes every day. I see different things every day. I really don't know if he'll stay or not, because what I have written down on my list is that he's gonna re-sign for the $7.8 million that the Nuggets can offer him. Because what I'm thinking is that he would take that, and then if he really wants to stay around in Denver, excuse me, he would just, after this next year, after he makes $7.8 million in the actual last year of his contract, he'll just sign a bigger deal when the Nuggets have more cap space next season. But I just really don't know, man, because I saw the clip of Jamal Murray in an interview, literally leaking that he got a contract extension. But then at the same time, over the past couple days, the amount of rumors I've seen from all these different teams pursuing him, including the Lakers, the Knicks, the Timberwolves, and I just saw I think the Pacers now are in the running. It just really doesn't seem like he's gonna re-sign. I would love him to. I think he does love the city, but my initial prediction was that he was gonna re-sign. But if I had to make up my mind, I think that he'll sign as much as I hate it, I think he'll sign with the Lakers. I really think the Lakers are trying to build something this offseason, and I think they can offer him their mid-level exception, and I think he'll accept it. 12.4 mil for over 2 years. I think he'll definitely accept that for the Lakers. He would be their sixth man, possibly even start at the 1 or the 2 for them, but depending on the status of D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. But it's really tough. Obviously, I would like the Nuggets to retain Bruce Brown, and I'm campaigning for it a lot. But when it's all said and done, you said it perfectly. Money talks, and I think at this point, this is very similar as a Warriors fan to Gary Payton's situation last season. They're both really similar players, really good wing defenders. And they just got to get their payday. I mean, if Denver could offer more than that 7.8 mil, I think he would for sure resign, but they just can't offer that. And I think 5 mil more is definitely enough for Bruce Brown for the Lakers to pry away Bruce Brown. But if he doesn't sign with the Lakers, I could see him going to either maybe Dallas or Minnesota to help out there, because those teams both need some depth at the guard position. But yeah, that's my prediction on Bruce Brown. But me and you both, we're hoping he comes back, man. We're hoping he comes back. Hopefully in the next couple days we'll know.
Yeah, I think we'll probably know by tomorrow. I think I think he'll make his decision by tomorrow, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's for Bruce Brown. So yeah, that was just a transition in from the Nuggets. But now we're gonna start with the big names. So this isn't the biggest free agency class ever, but there are some definitely big names. I made my list before the news today with James Harden. He's probably number 1 on this list. We can still give our predictions on him, but I just want to let all you know, if you don't know, he opted into his contract, but him and Philly decided that they're best parting ways, and they're gonna find a trade suitor for him, and he's going to be traded. He's not coming back to Philly, even though he opted into his contract. So that's interesting there. You got Kyrie Irving, you got Fred VanVleet, you got Draymond Green, Chris Middleton opted out of his contract, and then you got some other guys such as Brook Lopez, Austin Reeves, Kyle Kuzma, just some like mid-level players also like that who are pretty good. So not the biggest free agency class, but it's really interesting. And I remember telling you this a good amount, and my bold prediction is maybe not a free agency move that'll happen, but I think there's going to be some big star movement around the league this offseason. Trades, you already got James Harden. Maybe Kyrie surprises and signs with the team. I mean, he said he's meeting with the Suns today. Maybe he does some crazy shit like he always does. So yeah, I can see something like that happening. But starting with James Harden, my initial before all this was that he was going to opt out of his contract and then re-sign on a bigger deal in Philly. And he was gonna like maybe finish his career there or just stay there and just try to run it back with Embiid, Maxey. But now with him opting in and he's gonna get traded, there's 3 main suitors that I see that I think are gonna go all out for him. The top 3 on my board, I have the Clippers, the Knicks, and the Miami Heat. I think the best fit for him would be in LA. Maybe not, because a trio of James Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George, dog, that would be like the most injury-prone team ever. So that wouldn't be smart at all. They're all in their 30s now. But the asking price for James Harden is, for the Clippers, they won't have to give up either Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, Zubats if they want. They don't have to give up any of them. I saw the asking price is around a Norman Powell, maybe a Terrence Mann, and a Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris is a good trade asset in this because, as we all know, James Harden, he just opted in a $35 million play option, and Marcus Morris has that horrible, huge contract that the Clippers are trying to offload. So the salaries would match there. Norman Powell, he's really good. He was 6th Man of the Year candidate. He would be good over there. And then Terrence Mann, obviously still young, entering the prime of his career, and he's a great guard who's shown flashes in the Clippers. Obviously, they have to include some draft capital. But for me, that's my best situation. And if I had to make one prediction, I would say James Harden goes to the Clippers to form an injury-prone Big Three. And they can finally try to win their championship after making their moves in 2019.
Yeah, so I did start my list as well before the news came out. I thought that he would actually decline and re-sign for at least like a shorter deal and give Nick Nurse a chance, just because he's won a championship. But if they didn't get past the second round or at least get in the finals, I thought that he would leave after that. But no, so after this news came out, I think that best place maybe would be Miami because I think that Miami has like they're so close. They have been to the finals. They made it in the bubble and they made it this past year. Like they just need that. I think one more piece. Like Kyle Lowry will not do it for you, and like the combination of Max Strus and Gabe Vincent just isn't enough to be elite teams like Denver or like the Bucks in the same conference. So I think that Miami would be his best option. But yeah.
I see that for sure. So for Miami, there's been a bunch of rumors about getting Damian Lillard, but as the offseason goes on and on more, it seems more than likely that although everyone in the world knows he shouldn't stay, it appears more than likely he's going to not run from the grind. He's going to stay in Portland. And then I think number 2 on their list would be Kyrie Irving, but we'll get into that in a little bit, but all signs point to him re-signing unless something else happens. And then I think 3rd on their list would be James Harden. They're really struggling at that guard position, in my opinion. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, they're both unrestricted free agents. In my list, I have them both leaving. Kyle Lowry on the he's like nearing the end of his career, and Miami, we can all see now that they just can't get past that hump. Like if we did a recap video or a recap episode after like the finals, I would just keep saying Miami they're just not a championship team. It may seem like they're like one of the only teams that can make the finals every single year, but they're not a championship team. They made it in 2020. They had no chance against that Lakers team. They took that Boston team to 7, but there was just no way that they would get past Steph Curry and the Warriors last year. And then this year they had no chance against the Nuggets. They only stole 1 game. I think if they can't get Dame or Kyrie, they should definitely go all in. They can offer a package of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, some draft capital, Kyle Lowry, even if they want. And they can make it happen, man. I mean, and then Miami, if they let Max Strus and Gabe Vincent room, they'll have some cap space to sign some bench depth. And then you'll have a starting lineup, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, maybe run it back with Kevin Love, Caleb Martin, maybe. So I mean, that's a really good big 3, assuming James Harden is still a really good playmaker like he is. Because James Harden, he's still a really good player. And obviously he doesn't have that scoring ability, but that's partially because, the past couple of years he's been playing alongside KD, Kyrie, and Embiid. But he's developed into one of the best passing guards in the league. He's averaged like double-digit assists like the past couple of years of his career. So James Harden's still pretty good. And yeah, I think Miami's definitely a good fit for sure. But I think if there's one that I had to predict, I think he's going to go to the Clippers.
Yeah, man. And you obviously talked a little bit about Kyrie being like the second option for Miami. I think that he's going to re-sign with Dallas. I think that he believes that Luka and him can make something happen there because obviously Luka is one of the most like generational players these couple of years. But I don't know, Dallas is in a weird position because they got guys like Christian Wood, who we're going to talk about later, who might not come back in my opinion. But they could bring in guys like a Bruce Brown. So I think that he's going to re-sign with Dallas.
Yeah, I had that too. I said he's going to sign on the 4-year max extension. I think he's going to get about $50 million per year. They're going to give him his max extension. I mean, I think he's going to weigh his options because Kyrie Irving, you never know with him. And Kyrie Irving, he wants the bag. He's made that pretty obvious. I don't think any team's going to offer him the max other than Dallas because Mark Cuban, Kyrie himself, Luka, I think they all believe that that they can run it back, like you said. So I think they're going to give him the max. He's going to sign 4-year max. And then, like you said, we'll get into all the Dallas signings early because on my list, I have a good amount of free agents, both wings, bigs, and everything that Dallas is going to be pursuing and maybe even signing alongside, Christian Wood, Dwight Powell all leaving. Their main problem this season was their defense, man. Just horrendous, man. I just could not watch a Mavericks game. Like, Dwight Powell as your starting center, dude, you could have a big 3 of LeBron, Jokic, and Luka Doncic, and you're not doing anything if you have Dwight Powell, man. He was just horrible. And then they have JaVale McGee coming off the bench. Christian Wood was horrible defensively. He didn't fit in that Dallas system. So I think they're going to definitely be big buyers this offseason for sure. And I think that starts with re-signing Kyrie to the max.
Yeah, so now I want to transition to Draymond and his situation. we all know that he's most likely going to go back to. Well, I have him going back to the Warriors, even after declining his player option. I think that he's going to sign for less just to help out the team a little bit more since, they can't bring back. They're not able to bring back guys like Dante, and it's not confirmed. Like he could possibly come back, but he played pretty well this season, so he's definitely gonna at least look at his options. But I think it's gonna help more now, even though that yes, um, uh, Golden State shouldn't have traded Jordan Poole, but I think now since he's out of there, I think that it gives the Warriors a better chance of really like kind of letting the locker room refresh a bit after they're gonna have like not much drama after Jordan Poole is gone.
I don't think many people realize, but I think the Warriors, this was more internal and not many people knew about this, but they had to make a decision between Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. With the new CBA, they wouldn't have been able to sign both at all. It was either you trade Jordan Poole and then boom, you have the cap space to sign Draymond to his extension, or Jordan Poole sticks around, and they just wouldn't have the money to stay Draymond. Because when Jordan Poole was still on the roster, and Draymond opted out of his player option, everyone was like, oh, he's going to re-sign. But I don't think they would be able to if they didn't trade Jordan Poole. Obviously, they offloaded his contract. He's off with the team now. So I also have Draymond re-signing. I actually have him making a little more. I think they're going to give him 30 mil. Not many people understand how valuable he is. Even Steve Kerr said himself after the season, literally, he said out of his own mouth, we are not a championship contender without Draymond Green. There is no way they're going to let him walk. Draymond Green, he's not going to leave the Warriors, man. He's a Warrior for life. I have him re-signing on a 3-year, $90 million deal. And then after those 3 years, I think these 3 years might be it for us, maybe. And then maybe he signs like a 1-2 year deal because he's on the decline. But obviously, he's still Draymond Green. A guy like him, he doesn't like regress too much, He still has his basketball IQ that makes him the player he is. So I don't think there's much to talk about there, but I think he'll definitely re-sign with the Warriors on that. I don't know if you have anything else to say on Draymond, but
No, I actually wanted to get into Fred VanVleet because I think he's not going to return to Toronto because he was big on their championship run, but really after that, he got his extension, he just wasn't really the same. Or maybe it was just because Toronto, ever since their ring season, they've been really quiet. So, I think that he's going to look for a big contract in a place like San Antonio where they might try to get a couple veteran guys to go in with Wembanyama. I think they're a team that could very likely offer him that big contract. And, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a universe where Toronto re-signs Fred VanVleet. It just hasn't been working out, and they have bigger plans, especially at that guard position. I think, to be honest, I don't see how you could think he signs with any other team other than the Houston Rockets, in my opinion. That's exactly what they're looking for. They have Amen Thompson. They have Jalen Green. They want Amen Thompson to come off the bench. They're going to start Freddie at the 1. They're going to start Jalen at the 2. And the Rockets, they have the most cap space out of anybody, and Fred VanVleet wants it back. There is no other team that is going to give Fred VanVleet 30 mil a year like the Rockets are. Although I don't think it's a good contract, I have the Rockets signing Fred VanVleet on a 4-year, $120 million deal. I feel like they're going to add a player option in there just because Fred VanVleet isn't very young, so maybe he's not part of their long-term future once they get kind of out of that rebuilding stage that they're in right now. But the only other team maybe I could see pursuing, it's a kind of crazy scenario, if neither D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves resign with the Lakers, that would give the Lakers a good amount of cap space, and then I think they would make a run at Fred VanVleet later. And so I think Lakers are number 2 in the race for him. But honestly, I think it's a lock, in my opinion. I would be pretty surprised if he signs elsewhere other than Houston. And I don't know how well he would fit there. I mean, he has Ime Udoka now. He's another coach who has that experience in the finals, like when he played for Nick Nurse. But yeah, that's my prediction for Fred VanVleet. I don't know. Do you have anything else on Fred VanVleet?
I did put Houston down as well, but I also included Orlando just because of how much they love their guards. Yeah. And I could see them giving him that money too.
Yeah. Orlando's crazy, man. I just want to talk about it real quick. They have so many guards on their roster. I just don't get it. It's like they have all these guards on the roster, and then they put like Bol and Paulo Banchero, and boom, they're good at the forward and center position. Like it just doesn't make sense. They drafted 2 guards. They had a horrible draft, but yeah, out of the way for that. Next person I have on my list is Chris Middleton, who actually surprisingly to me, he opted out of his player option deal. I think Chris Middleton is a Milwaukee Buck for life, in my opinion, unless another team's able to pry him away or something happens internal, because I don't think money would be an issue. I don't think he would leave Milwaukee for money, because Chris Middleton is a staple if the Bucks want to be contenders. If Chris Middleton leaves and they don't replace him, I don't think the Bucks have a chance of making it out of the Eastern Conference next year. So I have Chris Middleton re-signing on a 3-year, $90 million deal. I think he's going to get $30 million. His player option was about $40 million, so he takes about a $10 million pay cut here because he's also exiting his prime a little bit there. So I don't think there's too much to talk about there. I mean, I don't know who else would be suitors if he does decide to leave. If he would to leave, I guess I would probably have him going to a contending team, but I think he re-signs with the Bucks, and I think the Bucks are just going to run it back.
I don't know. I would have to disagree. I don't think he's going to be a Buck for life. I think that with their new head coach, he might come back on a shorter deal, but ever since they won their championship, he's been a little bit injury prone. Barely played this past year. I think that he'll, or I think the Bucks are going to give him one more chance to get back to the finals. But yeah, I think other teams would be more willing to give him more money. But yeah, I think I see the Bucks giving him one more chance.
So you have him re-signing?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This is kind of a similar situation with like Draymond Green, for example. I think nobody's gonna offer more money to Draymond Green than the Warriors. I think it's the same thing with Chris Middleton. I just don't see a team offering Chris Middleton $30 million a year other than Milwaukee, because he's been a part of that organization. He has a bond there. I don't think Giannis would let Chris Middleton, his partner in crime, leave that easily. I don't see a universe where, you said he's going to resign, but he'll get offers, sure. There will be teams that will be there, but I don't think anyone's going to offer him $30 million. So, yeah. One more unrestricted free agent, one of the bigger unrestricted free agents I have on my list is Brook Lopez. Speaking of the Milwaukee Bucks, actually, there's been a lot of noise about Brook Lopez. He's 35 years old now. He's a kind of a strange player, because most at this point of their career, like, he would be looking for a veteran minimum to win another ring. But Brook Lopez just had arguably the best all-around season of his career last season. He was Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He shot the best three-point percentage of his career, and he averaged, I don't know how many points, but he averaged like almost like his Nets days averages. So he had an outstanding year last year. I think the Bucks are going to do anything in their power to sign him, but I have 2 teams to watch out for. I have the Houston Rockets, because as I said earlier, they have a lot of cap room, and I've seen a lot of talk about that from NBA insiders saying that Houston's going to make a big push for Brook Lopez, and the Golden State Warriors. I think the Golden State Warriors, they need that size, and I think they're going to make a push. They don't have the money, but if Brook Lopez for some reason decides he wants to leave for less money, I think Golden State would definitely be a team. But my initial thing is, I just think the Bucks are going to run it back. To me, the Milwaukee Bucks, they're not a team like the Suns, the Nets, that are like, 2 years and we're just going to ship everyone off. No, I think they're going to stick all together, and I think they're just going to run it back until they're all at the end of their decline. So I have him re-signing with the Bucks on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, so I actually have him going to Houston because obviously they have their young core there. I think that they're going to want to bring in a lot of that veteran leadership. Like you said, he's coming off his best, one of his best seasons, and I think a guy like Ime Udoka, their head coach, is going to love to have a guy like him around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think the main thing that would pry him away from Milwaukee is the money. And at this point of his career, 35-year-old making the bag that Houston would offer him, shit, I would probably definitely think about that too. But yeah, I have him re-signing with Milwaukee. So that's all for some star unrestricted free agents. But now we're going to get into restricted free agents, aka other teams can make offers, but the team that player has can match that offer. So first one I have on my list is Austin Reeves. I'll let you start with Austin Reeves and whether you think the Lakers will match offers and how much money you think he'll get, because there's a lot of different opinions on how much money people think he'll get.
I think that people might be like I think they're kind of blowing out of the water how much money the teams are willing to offer him. He was great. He got a lot better in his sophomore year. Played one of their only like best players in the playoffs, in my opinion, for the Lakers. So I think that most offers that he gets, they're gonna match that. So ultimately, I do think that he's gonna stay with them because I do think that he can be like their future point guard.
Yeah. So me with Austin Reeves, I'm not as high on him as other people think he is. I don't think I think he's hit his ceiling, in my opinion. I don't see Austin Reeves becoming an all-star one day, which is what the next step would be at this point because, like you said, he had a really good sophomore season. But as much as I don't agree with it, I'm just going to get this out of the way so that nobody thinks this. I don't think he should be making 25 mil per year. No, I don't think he should even be making 20. No. But I think there's going to be a team out there that's going to offer him 4-year, $100 million deal. But I think the Lakers are crazy, and I think they're going to match it. So I think that's the highest he'll get, 25 mil per year. But I think the Lakers are going to match it, and I think they're going to re-sign him. I would see teams like maybe Utah or maybe just like some, like, not rebuilding teams, but just some younger teams like looking for another future piece. Because Austin Reeves is young. He's definitely an intriguing option for teams in free agency, but I think the Lakers, they want to do everything in their power to retain him. I've seen a bunch of reports saying that they'll match up to 25 mil. So I think they're going to do that, and I think Reeves will stay with the Lakers. So after that, one other restricted free agent. This one, actually, I have a hot take on. This one's actually really interesting. One of the best role players in the league, in my opinion, who just got a chance to thrive in a new situation, Cameron Johnson. Obviously, he was a part of the Kevin Durant deal. He got traded to Brooklyn, and just like Mikal Bridges, he thrived. His points per game average increased. His field goal percentage increased, and just when he gets more usage, he's just a better player. But I think it'll be interesting because the Nets, they're in a tough position. If they're like not in a rebuild, but they're kind of are. It's interesting because do they want to start the rebuild and have their main two guys be Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson? I think that's hard because, like, I mean, they're pretty young, but they're not like the youngest guys out there. But I mean, Mikal Bridges, I think he's my dark horse for All-Star and Most Improved next season. I think he increased his points per game average from one trade by 9 points per game. He went from 17 to 26. 26 points per game post All-Star break is insane. So just getting that out of the way, I actually think that there's one team that's going to pry away Actually, hold on. I said that. So I had the Kings prying away Cameron Johnson and giving him a bag, 4-year, $112 million, and I said that he's going to replace Harrison Barnes. But guess what the fucking Kings did today? They gave Harrison Barnes $20 million a year to be their starting small forward. I just can't wrap my head around. That's so stupid. So now I'm going to change my prediction. I'm going to say Houston's going to give him a bag, but the Nets will match. I think the Nets really want to keep Cameron Johnson around. Man, he would be so good on the Kings, bro. Cameron Johnson would be so good on the Kings. I feel like he would be that role player that perfect at the Kings and he would still be able to thrive. But they went ahead and gave Harrison Barnes his money. Like, that's so dumb, man. I mean, I'll let you go. But yeah, now my prediction, I think the Nets are going to match every offer.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna match any offers that he gets as well. I think that they're gonna find value in him being with the trade that included Mikal Bridges. I think that they're gonna try to see what they can build there and see, if they can make any type of run. But I think that Cameron Johnson's one of those players that like is a part of a trade for a superstar. and just ends up going to a team like the Blazers and just doesn't really end up doing much, in my opinion. He just seems like one of those players. But I like his game a lot, so I think he's going to stay with Brooklyn.
I think he'll stay, but that's interesting to me. I think Cameron Johnson has a decently high ceiling. I mean, he's kind of old. He came into the league, what was it, 2018, 2019? Only like 4 or 5 years ago, but he's like 27 because he was like a 4-year guy at UNC and he came in at the age of like 22, 23. So obviously that's not ideal for him, but he's entering the prime of his career and he played really good post All-Star break after the trade, just like Mikal Bridges. So yeah, I think the Nets will match that offer. Next I have on my list restricted free agent is Grant Williams. This is interesting because I think Boston would want to re-sign him, but I don't know if they would go over the top. If there's some offer that like they really think is over the top, maybe like 16 mil a year, I feel like maybe they would think is too much for Grant Williams, then I think they wouldn't match. But I think they're going to try to match some offers. My prediction is that Boston is going to match whatever offer he gets. I think some interested teams will be Dallas, San Antonio, and maybe Houston as well. Houston, I feel like, is like everywhere because they have so much cap space, and I saw a list that they're like free agents the Rockets are interested in, and it's literally like every single role player in the NBA. So I mean, I feel like they just want everybody. But if they don't match an offer, I think my number one place where he would sign is Dallas. I feel like he would fit well there. I feel like he would maybe replace like Tim Hardaway Jr. or Reggie Bullock there, and I think he would be a better replacement. Grant Williams, he was like in and out of the rotation in the playoffs, so that's why I don't know if he really would want to come back to Boston, as much as it seems like he loves the city, but he doesn't have a choice if Boston matches the offer. So yeah, that's my prediction, that Boston will retain Grant Williams, Batman.
Yeah, my prediction is that he doesn't stay with Boston because I just don't think they're going to be that aggressive in terms of matching offers from other teams, like especially if it's a lot more than they're willing to match. I think that he's going to end up going to Dallas because I think that I think he's a pretty underrated passer. So like, and obviously Grant Williams, he's known for pretty good 3-point shooting, and he just didn't play that well in the conference finals. Like you said, he was also in and out of the rotation. So I don't see why Boston would make such an effort to stick with him.
Yeah. So we both pretty much have the same thing. Boston, they won't reach too far to retain him, and we both think Dallas. So yeah. Next on my list is Rui Hachimura. He's interesting because I think there will be some teams that will give him big contracts, but I have him re-signing with the Lakers. I think they're going to give him somewhere between the 12 to 15 mil range, around that mid-level exception. And I think they'll match offers up to 16 mil. I think if he gets like near 20 mil, I think the Lakers will let him go. I don't think they would give him that much money if some rebuilding team wants to give him that money and Rui wants to take that offer. But I don't think he'll get that. Rui Hachimura is a great player. I think he fits really well with the Lakers. That was one of the greatest trades of the season, acquiring Rui Hachimura, even before the deadline. It was in like January, because he helped out the team a lot. He had a couple like 20-point games in the playoffs. So I think they're definitely going to try to retain him, and I think that they will. And they'll run it back with both Reeves and Rui.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think the Lakers are gonna do anything possible to retain him because they finally have like a little bit they kind of have a group now of young players like Austin and Rui that are actually good. Unlike like a couple of years ago when they had Julius Randle and Lonzo Ball and like very just
Brandon
not
Ingram.
consistent guys.
Yeah,
Brandon Ingram. So like they finally found these two guys, young guys that could be in their future, and not like 2 years ago when they had Carmelo Anthony, DeAndre Jordan, like all these just washed all-stars. So I think they're going to do anything in their power to retain him.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. So my next player on my list is PJ Washington. I don't watch the Hornets that much, but I know a good amount about PJ Washington. PJ Washington can hoop, man. He plays the center as a smaller guy. He's similar to Kevon Looney in a way. But I don't think his offers are going to be that much. Teams I see making a move for him, I think Indiana might give him a good amount of money, especially if they think of moving Miles Turner, or even if they just want a backup for Miles Turner, or maybe PJ plays the 4. And I think a sneaky team that he would be really good on is Sacramento, especially if Trey Lyles walks. or Terrence Davis walks or someone like that, I feel like he could take over that role perfectly, and I think he could be really good there. But ultimately, I think Charlotte wants to keep him. Both him and Miles Bridges are restricted free agents, and I think that they're going to re-sign both of them. They're going to match all offers. There's been a bunch of reports that they're going to do everything in their power to do that. And is it the right move? I don't know. You ask me, but yeah, I think both Miles Bridges, I just kind of just combined them, but I think both Miles Bridges and PJ Washington are going to stay with Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that PG. I don't think that they're gonna bring him back. I think he would go to a team like the Kings just because they're a pretty young team. I think that he could fit their play style pretty well. And yeah, I think that I don't know the Hornets. They've been a very quiet team. Maybe because like obviously the media just loves LaMelo Ball, but I think that he ends up going to the Kings.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, my boy, he needs that money for that child support. So, hey, go get your bag, PJ Washington. Go get your bag. And Miles Bridges, I think he'll re-sign with the Hornets, and he'll just serve his 10-game suspension, and he'll just return like nothing happened. I don't think there's going to be any big deals with anything. But one team I have maybe him going to if Charlotte does not want to bring him back is the Cavs. I think he would fit really well there. Their one weak point has been small forward. Karis LeVert, they signed him, but he's been coming off the bench, and they've been starting Isaac Okoro, who they drafted early on, but he has not been what they expected him to be. He's been mediocre, small forward at best, averaging like 5 points a game. If they can snag Miles Bridges, the Cavs could be dangerous, man, especially because Miles Bridges, I've been seeing him in the gym. I don't think he's going to lose a step after sitting out a whole season. So that's a sleeper team, but I think he'll stay in Charlotte, and that Showtime with LaMelo will stay. RTB.
Yeah, I think he stays in Charlotte. I don't think that many teams are going to take a chance on him just because I think that the situation that he had is going to affect him in terms of other teams willing to, offer more than what Charlotte is willing to match.
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think it's like that. Well, obviously, like, if what he did is, like, true, then, like, yeah, it's bad. But, like, let's be honest, man. As shitty as it sounds, there's Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, all these guys. They got huge contracts. They don't care, man. They want the best players who can win them games, make them money. I mean, that's just what I'll say. But real quick, over under 2.5 LaMelo Ball features on the RTB songs this season throughout the 2023-24 NBA season.
I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna say over. You know, I gotta go over.
All right, over. Who do you think? What's the higher number? You think more the Charlotte Hornets amount of wins they're gonna get this season, or the songs that Miles Bridges is gonna drop this season?
Under.
Okay.
Less wins.
That's crazy, bro. The Charlotte Hornets, man, they got to get their shit together. Okay, so that's some restricted free agents that I wanted to talk about. There's some others that we'll get into, but next I want to go into some more mid-range, decent unrestricted free agents. My first one is a really big one. I have Kyle Kuzma. So Kyle Kuzma, he did decline his player option. Doesn't mean he's not going to re-sign with Washington. I think I have 5 teams that are going to be heavily pursuing him. I have the Phoenix Suns, the Kings. Actually, I'm going to take the Kings out because they signed Harrison Barnes, stupid-ass team. The Lakers, the Pacers, and the Rockets. I really want him to sign elsewhere because Kyle Kuzma, he had a much bigger role this season, and he averaged, I think 21 and a half points this season, which is really good for him. But I want him to try to go win another ring, and I think he might want to. But I think that Washington is going to offer so much money. They're going to give him up to 24 mil, I feel like. And nobody else is going to come close to that. So I actually think he's going to re-sign with Washington and keep his numbers up, Now he has Jordan Poole. He has Bilal Coulibaly, whatever his last name is, in Washington. And no Bradley Beal, no Porzingis. He has a chance to average even higher than that 21 he did last season. So I think Washington will offer him a lot of money and he'll leave. As much as I do want him to sign to a better team, I think the Wizards are going to give him a bag.
Yeah, I do think that there's a good chance that the Wizards would be the only team to offer him the most money, but I think that the Pacers are going to give him a good run for his money. I think that, the Pacers are probably the weirdest team for me. Like, I literally forget that they
I
exist.
know, bro. They're the
Like,
definition of
I
mid, literally.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally.
But I think that they have like the second best chance of getting Kyle Kuzma.
The Pacers.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So you think he's gonna resign?
Yeah, I think he'll resign, but the Pacers are going to make a good run for him.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix, like, if they want to use whatever they have left of their cap space and just be completely in the shitter after every one of their star leaves, they could make a run for Kuzma. But yeah, ultimately, I think he's just going to sign with Washington. Next unrestricted free agent I have is Russell Westbrook, who obviously became like just complete downfall with the Lakers. But then the Lakers traded him to Utah. Utah bought him out, and he signed with the Clippers. And it seems like he found a home. He played really good. And in that playoff series, when Kawhi Leonard was out, Russell Westbrook was really good, man. And I was really impressed. I like this new role player, Russell Westbrook, and everything. And all I've been hearing talk around the NBA is that he wants to come back to LA, and LA wants him to come back. The Clippers, not the Lakers, obviously. But so I think he's going to re-sign with the Clippers, and I actually do think he's going to take the veteran minimum. I don't think he's going to take anything higher than that. As sad as that is, I mean, being an MVP, 6 years ago now, I think he'll sign for the vet minimum because he wants to stay in LA and he'll do anything to win. So, yeah, that's my prediction for him. But watch out for Miami and Boston to try to pry him away. I think he would be a good fit at those two places, and they're in need of some guard depth. So, yeah.
I do think he'll go back with the Clippers. I think that obviously he would love to stay there because he grew up in LA. He loved the area. I don't think that he would go to a team like Miami. I just don't think they would. I don't think his play style really fits for him. In the past, there's been talks about how his play style is just too fast for the league, even though the league nowadays is a pretty fast pace. But I think that they maybe should just give this Kawhi and PG team one more chance before they really blow it up because, dude, they just can't get healthy, man. It was just Russell those last couple of games against Phoenix. So I see him staying there.
Bro, this ain't MVP Russ. He does not have that fast play style anymore. That's what I'm talking about. This is that new role player Russ. He gets the rebounds. He's a good pass. He's like a pass first guard now. It feels like. I do not remember one time this season seeing Russell Westbrook grab a rebound, yeet past somebody at half court, and go by and one later. I didn't see that one time in his Clippers tenure, and I watched a lot of Clippers games. So I don't think that's the reason why he would. I think Miami would be number one behind the Clippers because Gabe Vincent I have walking, Kyle Lowry might be gone. If they trade, let's say they make that James Harden trade or they make that Dame trade, bringing Russell Westbrook in, especially if he was willing to accept the veteran minimum or a little bit higher, that would be great for them. And Miami would definitely be probably a better contender than the Clippers, I feel like, in my opinion, if they brought in one of those point guards. So, but yeah, I mean, we both agree that he's probably going to go back to LA because it seems like there's mutual interest there. Next one, I'll let you start. This one's really interesting. I've seen 50-50 opinions on this guy. D'Angelo Russell, after being pretty good with the Lakers after returning in the regular season, pretty good in the first series, maybe even in the second series against the Warriors, but just falling off a cliff in the conference finals, getting benched. He was unplayable. He was unplayable, and for the amount of money he's making, you just can't have that. But you can't disregard all the other play he had. So I want to know your opinion. Do you think the Lakers will bring him back?
I don't think the Lakers are going to bring him back, especially because of how bad he played against the Nuggets in the semi-conference final. Yeah, I think a team, some rebuilding team would probably bring him in. Probably maybe a Pistons type of team that's still rebuilding. So, yeah, I don't see him going back to LA.
I don't think he'd sign with a rebuilding team because I don't think he wants to play for a rebuilding team. There's some guys that would take the bag, but I think the lowest he would go is a playing team. Kind of like when he played for Minnesota. I feel like that would be the lowest. He still wants to be even if he comes off the bench. He still wants to be a contributor for a good team. I want to get the record straight, just like how I said with Austin Reeves. I do not think the Lakers should run it back. I think the Lakers should make some roster changes, and I do not think they should run it back, especially with D'Angelo Russell. But I think that Rob Pelinka wants to run it back, and I think he's going to re-sign D'Angelo Russell. I think he's going to give him a 2-year deal, not a long-term deal, but I think he's going to re-sign him. As much as I don't think they should run back that entire lineup, bring everyone back, because I don't think they are really contenders with that. I think they'll re-sign him and just hope that he be's better. So the next person I had on my list was Harrison Barnes, but the news came out today that he signed a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Kings. Oh my god, man. I had him signing with Indiana for 8 to 10 mil. I thought that would be his highest market. But the Kings go out and give him damn near 20 mil. Bro, Harrison Barnes is not that good, man. He was not playable in the last couple games of the Warriors series. They were playing Trey Lyles and Terrence Davis over him, bro. Man, this is a popular opinion too. I feel like I'm not like the odd man out that thinks Harrison Barnes isn't worth all this money, because I have a grudge against them because he literally fucking blew the 3-1. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about that, but yeah, I mean, sure, Sacramento, do your thing if you think he can be a big contributor, but running it back, Sacramento is not a contender. And if they went for a guy like Cameron Johnson, Kyle Kuzma, I think that could completely flip the switch. But instead, they gave that Kuzma, Cam Johnson money to Harrison Barnes. I just really don't see the point of that. I just really think that's really dumb. So, yeah, Harrison Barnes is re-signed with the Kings.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he obviously was a pretty big part in turning Sacramento around, but he's not worth the money that they gave him for sure. They could have gone to a different player, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I mean, I saw him staying with Sacramento anyways, but they definitely could have like given him a lot less.
Yeah, but for me, I feel like Harrison Barnes is kind of like a regular season player. I feel like he's a playoff dropper, and we saw that and I feel like that's been him his whole career. So, yeah, so Harrison Barnes is re-signing. Next person I have on my list is Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is interesting because he wants like 30 mil a year. Is he worth that? Hell no. But will the team give it to him? Maybe. I'll let you start with your prediction on Jeremy Grant. Will Portland try to re-sign him or not?
I think that, man, I think he will re-sign with Portland just because maybe he wasn't great, but I think that he played decent enough where he could get that money from Portland. And Portland's just, they have horrible management, you know, that for years they can't get a champion, or at least a contender for Damian Lillard, but I think that he'll resign for Portland.
Yeah, I do not want Portland to give him the money, but this is my prediction for worst contract of the offseason. I think that they're going to give him a 5-year, $150 million deal. I think they're going to give him $30 million a year. I think Portland is ridiculous, and they're going to give it to him. They are going to give him a horrible deal because I've seen so many reports. They want to run it back with their big three of Dame, Simons, and Jeremy Grant. Portland is so stupid, bro. Trade Damian Lillard, please. Trade Dame. Please, you just drafted Scoot Henderson. Now you're gonna lessen the growth of a generational prospect because you have a dude who's not gonna win a championship. Like, it just blows my mind, man. And then I can guarantee they're gonna give Jeremy Grant a horrible contract, and it's just gonna be so bad. And Jeremy Grant's not worth near $30 million a year. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, that's my prediction for worst contract of the offseason. Jeremy Grant, $30 million a year, long-term 5-year deal with the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they would give him a 5-year. That's, I don't know if Portland's that dumb, but
Mm.
I mean, crazier things have happened.
Yeah,
So
yeah, dude.
who knows?
Yeah, Portland's crazy.
I wanted to get into DiVincenzo's situation, a little bit similar to last year, to Gary Payton's situation last year, where they didn't have enough money to bring him back, but obviously they wanted to because of how he did the little things and was a great defensive player. I did see like some predictions of him going to the Nuggets, but like the Nuggets don't have money to spend really. They have to like really rely on vets and their rookies that are now going to be sophomores this upcoming season. So where do you see him going?
DiVincenzo. So yeah, it's kind of different from Gary Payton because Gary Payton, his whole contract was over. He signed a 1-year deal, and nobody expected Gary Payton to be as big of a contributor as he was during the Warriors championship run. But DiVincenzo, there's 0% chance he comes back to the Warriors. They can only offer him up to $5 million, and he wants the mid-level exception. And I'm happy for DiVincenzo. As much as I want to talk about him a little bit. As a Warriors fan, I watch every game, so I know a lot about DiVincenzo. He was a great regular season player. I loved him. I was thinking in my head, we have to try our best to re-sign DiVincenzo, man. He's so good. But he really disappointed me in the playoffs, man. Like he really disappointed me. Like he was not nearly as good. He had like maybe 1 or 2 good games in between both of the first and second round series. The reason I'm not like that mad is because ever since like December, I saw this coming. DiVincenzo played himself out of his deal, just like kind of Bruce Brown did with the Nuggets this season. He played himself out of his deal. He's worth more than his player option is. So he declined. And I think this is similar to Fred VanVleet to Houston. I think he's a 100% lock to go to the Knicks. There's just no way he doesn't reunite with his Villanova boys, with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. There is a 0% chance he does not sign with the Knicks, man. I will say to watch out for the Nuggets. I don't think they'll sign him because, like you said, they have money issues with that. They can offer him more than the than the 7.8 mil that Bruce Brown would get, but so that I would also watch out for Minnesota and Chicago. They also need some guard depth there. I think he's a lock to go to the Knicks. He fits good there. Him and Josh Hart are similar players. The Knicks like to get those gritty, do-it-all players, and the Villanova reunion just makes it so much sweeter. I'm locking in. He's going to sign with the Knicks for the mid-level exception. He's going to sign for 12.4 mil, and yeah, I see that happening for sure.
Yeah, like the Nuggets definitely, at least, even though they have money problems, they at least have they can at least say that, hey, like you have a great chance of winning a championship here. So
I would love DiVincenzo on the Nuggets, man. Like I just want to get that out of the way. I would love it, bro. He's literally just like Bruce Brown. Like I feel like he would be perfectly even with Bruce Brown in terms of his scoring level. Obviously, like I said, who knows? He could be a playoff dropper because we've never really seen him in the playoffs. The year that he won the championship with the Bucks, he was out the entire playoffs. And then we just saw him in his first action, and obviously he disappointed. But yeah, DiVincenzo, if the Nuggets can find a way, if Bruce Brown leaves, obviously, I would love that. He would fit perfectly, and he would have a chance to get his second ring. So next guy I want to bring up is Jakob Poeltl, because Jakob Poeltl is like all in like I swear he's in like trade rumors and like rumors just 24/7, bro. Like he's never safe. So the Raptors traded for Jakob Poeltl mid-season, and he was pretty good. All signs point to him re-signing to the Raptors. I think they're going to give him about 20 mil per year. Jakob Poeltl, this is one of those situations where no other team is going to give him that much, but the Raptors really want to re-sign him. They like how he fits in their system, so I think they're going to give him around that. I just don't see him signing elsewhere. I think he played really good with the Raptors post All-Star break, so not much to say there. I think he's going to re-sign.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Next one. Dillon Brooks, the guy who's not coming back under any circumstances. So Memphis is out of the conversation. I have 3 teams that are going to pursue him. I have the Houston Rockets, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Dallas Mavericks. I think he says he wants more than the mid-level exception. Hell no. He's an above average wing defender, and honestly, I think that's it. He was all defensive second team, and he can guard. He can guard some guys, but he's one of those guys who can't guard star players, if you know what I mean. You have your wing defenders like Patrick Beverly. Patrick Beverly might not be maybe as good defender as Dylan Brooks, but he's a better defender on a team star player, if you know what I mean. It's kind of similar with like an Austin Rivers. You know, he can't guard star players. He's a good defender, but he can't guard a star player at all. He let Dame drop 65 on him in a game in the playoff game. So, where was I going with that? So my prediction is I think it's going to be between Houston and Dallas. I think Houston might offer him more than the mid-level exception. But I think he wants to go to a team that actually has a chance of winning. No offense to Houston, but they're not doing shit this year. I think he's going to sign with Dallas. I think he's going to sign for the mid-level exception with the Mavericks. He's going to bring that intensity to Dallas. And yeah, I don't have much else to say. But yeah, that's my prediction. I could see him going to Houston. I feel like Cleveland also could use his needs. But yeah, that's my prediction for the Rat Mole.
Yeah, I could see him going to Cleveland as well. I don't see him really going to Houston just because, like, we know that he's a big trash talker. He loves, being in the media when he's winning, but is nowhere to be seen when he's losing. But I think that the Kings could be a possible spot because he is a pretty decent, or a pretty good defender. But I think that multiple teams, maybe not multiple, but I definitely think that there are going to be some teams that are going to offer him a lot more than he's worth.
I mean, yeah,
I just see it.
I could see the Kings, but I don't want the Kings to sign him. I feel like that would not be good for them. I don't think Dylan Brooks would be. I don't think the Kings would be smart giving Dylan Brooks their mid-level exception over other guys such as like who did I mention earlier? Like other undrafted free agents who they could give that to. But regardless of where he signs, I hate the guy. And he's gonna fuck Dylan Brooks, man. But God, okay, all right. Josh Hart. Initially, I had him opting out of his player option and re-signing with the Knicks on a bigger deal, but it was announced today that he just accepted his player option, so he's going to be making the same amount this year, which is kind of interesting to me because I thought they would want to lock him up long-term as early as possible because Josh Hart is the perfect Knicks player. Josh Hart is probably one of my favorite role players in the league, bro. He just does it all. He is such a good rebounder for like a 6'5" guy, 6'6" guy. Outstanding rebounder. He fits perfect with the Knicks, and I don't see why the Knicks wouldn't want to keep him around. Like literally, once they traded Cam Reddish and a pick for him, he improved the team drastically as a role playing shooting guard who can rebound. So they did re-sign him. Now after this, I see after next season when he's an unrestricted free agent, I think then they're going to lock him up long term, but it's kind of interesting to me that they didn't right now. So
yeah, I think that he chose to accept it because not only will he make some pretty good money, but I think he's going to play better and he's going to end up getting a lot bigger bag from New York next year.
Mm-hmm. So we already talked about Bruce Brown. Next guy on my list is interesting because some people think he's going to get a lot of money and others think he's not. Max Strus. I think that Miami really does want to re-sign Max Strus. I think they'll try their best, but I've seen so much talk about him getting like a Duncan Robinson type deal, like an insane deal, like Detroit, Indiana, San Antonio. Like I can see those three teams offering him so much money. So my prediction is that the Indiana Pacers are going to give him a massive 3-year, somewhere between the 44 to 48 mil range, a little less than Harrison Barnes got. And then also what I see with that, I actually think that they're going to do a sign and trade for Buddy Hield. I think that Buddy Hield will be sent to Miami and Max Strus will be in Indiana so that the Heat get something in return for losing a guy that they, developed as much as that. So, but other teams to watch out for is Detroit and Chicago. I think he would fit well with the Bulls as a spot-up shooter there. But I think he's going to, even if it's not the Pacers, I think he's going to sign with some rebuilding team and get his bag. But don't count out Miami.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to tie in as well. Gabe Vincent, both great shooters that played well for them, but didn't really show up in the finals. I think that both guys are going to leave Miami and looking for a big bag. I think that Spurs is going to end up in Detroit, in my opinion. Gabe Vincent, I wasn't too sure, but I was thinking like possibly Houston. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that he could go to Houston.
I feel like he wouldn't go to Houston because, like I said, in my opinion, Fred VanVleet is a lock to go there. And at that point, they are full at the guard position. Kevin Porter Jr., Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet. I feel like at that point they're full. But speaking of Fred VanVleet, my prediction for Gabe Vincent is that he's going to replace him in Toronto. And I actually think that would be a good fit for him with their new head coach. I think Gabe Vincent is going to get a pretty big deal. I don't know exactly how much money he's demanding, to be honest, but I think he's going to get kind of a long-term deal, maybe like 3 to 4 years, probably a 3-year deal with Toronto. And he's going to replace Fred VanVleet, maybe somewhere around the mid-level exception. I'm really not sure what Gabe Vincent's value is in terms of how much money teams are offering. But yeah, Max Strus is going to get a bag from a bad team such as Indiana or Detroit, and I think Toronto would be a good fit for Gabe Vincent. I think he would want to play there. Next guy I have on my list is pretty interesting, Jordan Clarkson. So Jordan Clarkson has a player option. He still hasn't decided whether he's going to opt in or opt out. My prediction is that he's going to opt out, but then he's going to re-sign with Utah. I have a feeling that Utah sees Jordan Clarkson as a big part of their rebuilding future. Is that like the smartest thing ever? Maybe, because Jordan Clarkson's kind of getting older. But he's still a really good player. He's still a really good sixth man. Even if he starts, he fits well with Utah. So I think either he opts in, plays another year, or he opts out and Utah locks him up long term.
Yeah, I think he's gonna actually accept his player option. I do think that he'll be there for a lot longer. I don't know why, but he's just been there for a while now, and he's I think he's like above average. And yeah, I think he just fits in with them really well.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I just like have that feeling that he's just like a Utah Jazz player. I don't know, like that's just the vibe he gives me. So those are some guards we just went over. Now I want to go over some wings. We talked about Dante DiVincenzo, but one other guy I want to talk about is Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert, first thing I want to talk about, it's so sad how injuries ruined his career. I was a huge Karis LeVert fan in Brooklyn. Obviously that 2018, 2019, 2020 Brooklyn team, that the vibes were highest, D'Angelo Russell prime. I love that team. Like Karis LeVert snapped his leg in half and he's just never been the same. He was pretty good as a sixth man with Cleveland this last year. I have him re-signing for somewhere between 14 to 16 mil around there, which is, again, one of those guys that I don't think another team would offer that, but Cleveland will because I think they like him in their system. So that's my prediction for Karis LeVert. I don't really see another team giving him anything close to that, but I think Cleveland will give him that type of money.
Yeah, I agree. He fit in pretty well with them, and he's just been so injury prone that I don't see many teams, if any, offering him when there's like a lot more options out there.
Yeah, and he can still be a good six man. He's a good spark plug. He averaged like 15 points a game last year. I mean, he can still be really good. Next guy on my list is Kelly Oubre Jr. I saw a report today that said it's like pretty much 100% he's not coming back to Charlotte, so I'm gonna rule that out, to be honest. Although I think maybe there's a chance he comes back. Some suitors I have for him are the Cavs, if Karis LeVert leaves maybe, or something like that. The Pistons, because they're going to give him money, and Kelly Oubre just seems like the guy to always play on bad teams his whole career. And I have the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns, I feel like, should go after Kelly Oubre. You know, it would be a reunion. He started his career there. And I feel like he could be that sixth man, or maybe he could start, actually. Yeah, he would probably start at the 3, him or Josh Okogie. But if they want, they could bring him off the bench, put Josh Okogie in the starting lineup for more defense, and he could be a good spark plug off the bench because as we all know, that's going to be the big problem for Phoenix this offseason, signing guys that can produce off the bench. And I think if they can get Kelly Oubre for around like the mid-level exception price, then that would be pretty good. But my prediction is that he's going to sign with Detroit. They're going to give him a contract. And I think he would fit well there alongside Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. I think he could be a 20-point per game scorer like he's been the past couple years in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't think he would go to a team like the Suns just because, like, obviously they're gonna be having problems with the cap space, and I don't think Kelly Oubre, with like I'm pretty sure he's coming off a 20-point game per game season. I think he would want more than the mid level. He's just one of those guys that always wants more than probably what he's worth.
Yeah.
So I would see him going to the Cavs.
Yeah, the Cavs could give him that. But that's the other thing. I mean, since I have Karis LeVert re-signing with Cleveland, I don't think that that they would sign Kelly Oubre. But I mean, I could see it if they don't re-sign Karis LeVert. Next guy I have is Eric Gordon, who the news came out that the Clippers will not guarantee his contract. They're going to waive him. He's going to become a free agent. Eric Gordon, like, he had a crazy fall off, bro. He was scary in Houston. And then, like, he had, like, some really good years in Houston, and then he just fell off a cliff. He can still kind of produce off the bench. We saw that at when he was with the Clippers. But 3 teams I have that will pursue him will be the 76ers, the Miami Heat, and the Milwaukee Bucks, all contending teams who need bench depth. And I think he's going to sign for a little over the vet minimum with the 76ers. With James Harden leaving now, I think Tyrese Maxey's going to slot into that second option role, and Eric Gordon can back him up. So that's my prediction for Eric Gordon.
Yeah, I predict that he's going to go to the Bucks because the year that the Bucks won, I'm pretty sure that they had PJ Tucker, who was like their corner 3 guy, and Eric Gordon could be that guy for them. And Eric Gordon, even though yes, he did play bad in his like last 2 years in Houston, but he also had to factor in that those years were like the John Wall years, James Harden leaving, so it was just a bad situation.
I know. I can't believe he stayed in Houston that long. I mean, he was there like until trade deadline this season, which is insane to me. Next guy on my list is one guy I want my Golden State Warriors to sign. Yuta Watanabe. I love his game. He can shoot the lights out, man. I don't know how much Brooklyn Nets you watch, but I love his game. He's a pretty solid wing defender, and he's a great shooter off the edge. I'm pretty sure he like led the NBA in 3-point percentage for like a couple months. I don't think he'll re-sign with Brooklyn because I think he's going to be pursued by contenders. I have 3 teams that I think are going to heavily go after him. I have the Warriors, the Suns, and the Lakers. All 3, if either of these 3 teams could sign him, it would be a huge W for either of those teams in my books. But I think he's going to sign with the Phoenix Suns. I've seen a lot of talks about it. He would play because he wants playing time. He would definitely play knowing how little bench depth they have. He would probably be their 7th, 8th man off the bench. And because he has that relation with KD from their time in Brooklyn together, and he just wants more playing time. I think he'll sign for the minimum. I don't think Yuta Watanabe will sign for more than that, especially if he's going to sign with a contender. So if the Suns can get Utah for the minimum, that would be a huge W in my book. But I want my Warriors to get him for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, he's really good. So, all right, another guy I have on my list is Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker, I think the Lakers they would like to re-sign him, but I think he's gonna demand more money than people think. So. I don't think he'll stay with the Lakers as much as they want to bring him back. Some teams that have pursuing him, I feel like, are some lower level teams that would give him the money he wants, such as Utah, Minnesota, Washington, and Chicago. And I think he's going to sign with Washington on a 2-year deal, and he's going to get about 8 to 10 mil per year. I see that because I think he wants a role where he can thrive. It seems like that's what he wants. And he can do that just in Washington with the young players around him. He'll get plenty of playing time. So I think that would just be good there. And Lonnie Walker, he's just going to sign with a bad team. That's just my feeling I have.
Yeah, I think that the Lakers would obviously love to bring him back just because of his heroics in the second round. Still played pretty well in the third round, but just didn't get as much playing time. And I think with them trying to re-sign Reeves and probably some other younger guys, I think that he's just going to end up not coming back. So I think he would go to a team like Chicago because we know that Lonzo Ball is going to be out another season. Hopefully he gets better, but I think just my gut feeling, I think he'd go to a team like Chicago.
Yeah, I could see Chicago for sure. They could use Lonnie Walker. I feel like he would fit well there. Speaking of
Yeah.
Chicago, guy I have on my list is Patrick Beverley. I think he's going to be pursued by a couple teams, not as many as some may think. Like every single contender would want to go out and get him. I think Chicago wants to bring him back. I think maybe Houston might try to go get him to bring him in around those young players. And some other teams I have are the Knicks and the Timberwolves. Obviously, that Timberwolves reunion, he has a strong bond there. But I think he's going to re-sign with Chicago for just over the vet minimum. He wants to stay home and he wants to try to bring Chicago to the playoffs and possibly further because that's how Patrick Beverley is. He wants to bring bad teams to the championship by himself, even though he's a mediocre role player. So, yeah, I have him re-signing with Chicago.
Yeah, Sam. I think you fit really. I think you fit pretty well with their system. Older guy with like a pretty young team, fairly young team, and yeah, I think he just plays really well with those guys. They just brought back Jukovic, who I think is a pretty good center. Not talked about a lot. Yeah.
Next guy is Malik Beasley. The Lakers did not pick up his team option, so he will not be coming back to Lakers unless they bring him back on like a different deal, but I don't think they will. I think he could go to the Cavs on a team-friendly deal just over the minimum. He might not play that many minutes there, but he might try to steal some minutes from like Chetty Osman or someone like that. So I could see that. I think the Cavs would be a good fit for him. But if not, I feel like he's just going to go to some mediocre team and kind of like his Utah stint, and he'll play some decent minutes there.
The Lakers brought him in. Just one of those other players that they trade for mid-season, just don't bring back. Even though I think he could have played pretty well there, I think that he won't end up being back. Man, so he's like honestly he's like a veteran now, even though it feels like he's been pretty young for him now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him going to like the Cavs or maybe even Charlotte. Actually, he's a pretty good shooter. I could see him going to Charlotte.
Yeah, just one of those mid teams. Another guy I have is Terrence Davis, who he was on the Raptors and he got traded to the Kings. He kind of fell out of the rotation, but then he came in against that Warriors series. He played some great defense, and he like earned himself like a contract just through a couple of those games. He pretty much took Harrison Barnes' spot in that series, and he played some really good minutes. So I have a good amount of contenders that would try to get him. I think Sacramento's going to want to try to bring him back, and I think they're going to have him as part of their future plans. I think the Warriors might try to bring him in. I would like him on the Warriors. He would fit well there. The 76ers, the Lakers, and the Cavs, all those three teams I've been saying a lot on these wing and guard players to bring in. But I do think he's going to re-sign with the Kings on a 3-year deal. They're going to secure him kind of long term, and I think he's going to be a part of the Sacramento Kings future.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's going to be a part of their future. Came in, played some great defense, and I don't see him going. Well, he definitely has some choices, I think, with some contenders, but I think he's going to stay with the Kings.
Okay, a couple more guards I have on my list. Next one is Reggie Jackson, who got traded to or signed with the Nuggets around the buyout deadline. And he, like you said earlier, he did not live up to expectations. I thought he would come in and be really good as that backup point guard, but since he didn't play good, he fell out of the rotation. The Nuggets were forced to play without really a genuine backup point guard for the rest of the season. But to be honest, I don't think he'll have that much interest from other teams. So my prediction is that he's going to re-sign with the Nuggets on the veteran minimum, which is all that they can offer him. And I think, on as much as I wouldn't like to see it, I think there's a chance he's the backup point guard next season. As much as I wouldn't like that, I think there's a chance he is, and he's going to have to step up and actually play good this next season because Bruce leaving, and maybe they won't be able to sign anybody that good to replace him. But so yeah, I think he's going to re-sign on the veteran minimum.
Yeah, I think he's also going to re-sign. I think that finally, like I said, with a full off season, he's going to be fully healthy. Because I'm pretty sure when he came from LA, he wasn't that healthy. But I think he's going to have a better chance to really learn the system and actually flow with the other guys. He just kind of felt a little off when he was playing. But yeah, I think I'm not opposed to the idea of him playing more.
Okay, next guy I have on my list is Shake Milton, who I actually really like his game. He's kind of underrated in my opinion. He's a streaky guy. He can go out there and he's had a couple like 20, 25 point games like when the Sixers have had some injuries. I think Philly's going to want to bring him back. I saw a report today that the Warriors are interested in Shake Milton. They're pursuing him even though I didn't have him on my list. So I don't know about another guard, but I mean he would probably be their Dante DiVincenzo replacement. But some teams I have going after him are the 76ers are going to try to retain him. The Lakers, maybe the Nuggets might go after him as the Bruce Brown replacement, and the Knicks. But I think he's going to re-sign with the Sixers, especially now with James Harden leaving. He might be slated for a bigger role. I think he's going to sign for about 6 to 8 mil per year, and I think the Sixers are going to bring him back. I think he fits well there.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's gonna. I think Nick Nurse is gonna like him a lot. With James Harden on the way out, he'll probably get a bigger role, and yeah, I mean he's poised for it.
Last guard I have on my list is Derrick Rose. He's not gonna go back to the Knicks. I think he's gonna be pursued by a couple teams. I think the Suns might want to try to get him, and he could still play some decent minutes. The Celtics, maybe he could be that guy off the bench, and of course the Chicago Bulls. Man, it's too poetic, bro. I predict that he's gonna sign with the Bulls on a 2-year deal, and he's just gonna finish his career there. It has to happen, man. It just has to. There's no way. It better happen, and that's why I predict it's gonna happen, and I hope it does. He might not play, but he might actually, because if they don't re-sign Patrick Beverley, Lonzo Ball being out, they have Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, both restricted free agents who might leave or they might let go. They might be in need of a backup point guard, and Derrick Rose could do just that. And I mean, it's poetic. The Chicago reunion, I feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think he's going to go back with Chicago too for like a 1 or 2 year deal. I don't think he'll really play much. He's just one of those guys that you can't really rely to be consistently, give you like 12 points and 4 assists every night, really. So yeah, I think he's gonna go back to Chicago, finish there, and yeah, I think there's better options out there, even if Chicago doesn't go for him. I would understand why they wouldn't sign him.
Yeah, Derrick Rose, at this stage of his career, he's like he's a good playmaker, and that's about it. I mean, he's not really that good of a scorer, not that good of a defender, but I mean, he's always been a pretty good playmaker, pretty good passer, and I feel like he could give a spark to the Bulls for sure. So. Moving on to some big men I have on my list. There aren't very many big names in this free agent class, unrestricted free agent big men, but there are some interesting ones I want to talk about. The first one being, Christian Wood. Christian Wood, he got traded to Dallas, and there's a lot of hype around it because Christian Wood, he's been playing really good in Houston his whole career after being an undrafted guy coming up and everything. But he did not fit in Dallas well at all. Him and Luka Doncic, that pick and roll, it didn't seem to work all that often. And he was a terrible, and I mean terrible defender, especially inside the paint. He's just not a good rim protector. He's like a shooting guard, small forward in a center's body, so it just doesn't work for that. As good as he is scoring-wise, he did not fit in Dallas. So I really don't see a world where Dallas even tries to re-sign him. So I think Christian Wood is going to leave. Some teams that I see pursuing him include the Heat, the Wizards, the Trailblazers, and the Nets. I feel like those teams would be good. I feel like Miami's going to make a big push at him because he could kind of play a similar Kevin Love role, but he's a bit better than Kevin Love. But my prediction is that he's going to sign with Portland for the mid-level exception. They're going to give him their MLE, and I think because Portland's trying to build a contender, so I guess they're going to do that with Christian Wood. It's not the worst deal to give your mid-level exception to Christian Wood, but yeah, I think he'll go to Portland. I think he could put up decent numbers there. I think him and Scoot Henderson in the pick and roll could be pretty good. So.
Yeah, I actually see him going to Miami. I think that they're gonna do just enough to be able to get him. Even though I do think that they need to pursue more taller, like more athletic guys. Not because like last year, I mean they only had Cody Zeller, only like guy over 7 foot that couldn't guard Jokic. And yeah, I see him going to Miami because he's like, I wouldn't say he's similar to Bam Adebayo, but they're somewhat similar in size. So I think he could fit in well with them.
Not at all defensively, because that man, Christian Wood, is a traffic cone. That's the only reason why I would see the Miami Heat not signing him, because they want a good interior defender, because Bam Adebayo is their only guy. Cody Zeller can't guard inside as a 7-footer. Kevin Love can't guard inside as a smaller center or small ball center or power forward. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't see Christian Wood signing there. But I mean, it would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So speaking of Kevin Love, he's next on my list. I think he's gonna have some big suitors out there. I think Miami's gonna try to re-sign him. I think Milwaukee's gonna go after him. I saw some rumors about Milwaukee wanting to take my Kevin Love. Speaking of that, I swear, I don't know if it's just you that I realized, but Milwaukee always takes Miami's players. Like I just like always. It just makes no sense. It's weird. I think the Warriors might go after him. I think I would welcome him on the Warriors for sure. And I think the Suns would try to sign him to fill out their bench. That would be a good signing for them if they can get him. But ultimately, I think he is going to re-sign with Miami for the veteran minimum. I think he likes it there. I think Miami likes him, and there's been a lot of talk about them both wanting to work out a deal. I think he'll re-sign for the veteran minimum, and he'll still be able to provide some decent minutes because a guy like Kevin Love, aging doesn't really change the way he plays with his play style, with his pick and pop, catch and shoot threes, setting up the offense, all that. So, yeah, I think he's going to re-sign.
Yeah, I agree. They both have shown interest in wanting to re-sign him. And, yeah, like you said, his position and the way he plays is very consistent. And he's also a great just guy to have in the locker room. Mm-hmm. So even if leave Miami, he's going to impact them in any team in a good way. So yeah. I see him going to Miami though.
Yeah, for sure. Another guy I have on my list is another guy I would like the Warriors to go after, Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee, he's an unrestricted free agent, and I've always liked Mason Plumlee's play style. Even back when he was with the Nuggets, he was a good backup center. I think the Clippers are going to try to re-sign him. I think the Warriors are going to go after him. I think the Kings, if they can't get a guy like maybe if they can't retain Trey Lyles, or they can't get a guy like maybe like a PJ Washington or something, I feel like he could fit well in Sacramento as the backup center. And Phoenix obviously was going to try to make a move for him because he would be really good coming off the bench for them, especially if they lose out on Jock Landale or Bismack Biyombo. But I do think that he is going to re-sign with the Clippers on a 2-year deal. I think there's mutual interest between those two sides, so I think he will re-sign there. But I want the Warriors to make a move. I want them to offer him as much money as they can because they need size, and Mason Plumlee is size that can fit in the Warriors system.
Yeah, I've started to like Mason Plumlee more after he left Denver because I didn't realize how much of like actually a really good passer he is. He's a playmaker. He gets down in paint, and he gets you those gritty buckets. Mm-hmm. And even Michael Porter Jr. He said when he first got to Denver, like he thought that Mason Plumlee was better than Jokic. But I see him going back to the Clippers. I think they have mutual interest. He's great coming off the bench behind Zubats, and especially like if they bring back Russell, I think him and Russell can play great minutes together.
Yeah, him and Westbrook were really good together when they were on the court for the Clippers. And speaking of that, there's been rumors about Zubats actually being traded, which I don't think would be smart at all. But there's actually been rumors of the Clippers shopping him, so that would give the Clippers even more of a reason to re-sign Mason Plumlee as their starting center. So I think a reunion is going to happen for sure. Next guy is Trey Lyles, who gave the Kings some really productive minutes in the Warriors series, and I think he can be a really streaky guy off the bench for a lot of teams, a lot of good teams in this league. I think the Kings are going to want to re-sign him. I feel like the Warriors are going to go after him. He's another guy I would welcome, his size. The Celtics, I feel like, could use him. And maybe another team like Indiana would try to pry him away after now losing out on Harrison Barnes. They want another guy in that same realm. But I say he's going to re-sign with the Kings kind of on long-term deal, like 3 to 4 years. And I actually think they're going to give him some decent money, like between the 12 to 14 per range. I think they're going to give him. I feel like it's just bound to happen. Trey Lyles wants to stay. The Kings want to give him the money to make sure he stays. And I think he can be a solid part of their team going forward.
Yeah, I think he's also going to re-sign with the Kings. I think he surprised a decent amount of people with how great he was shooting the ball in the first series. And yeah, like I think other teams will definitely give him a run for his money, but I think he sees where Sacramento can go. And yeah, I think he's staying put.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Another guy I have on my list is Jonathan Isaac, who today is actually the deadline. He has non-guaranteed deal, but his contract becomes guaranteed today. So today, Orlando could either decide to non-guarantee his contract and waive him, or they could guarantee his contract, give him a pretty large amount of money for a guy who has not been playing at all. So they'll have to make that decision today. I think I've always been high on Jonathan Isaac, but obviously we all know he's only played 11 games in the past 3 seasons. He is probably the most injury-prone player in the league. He finally came back for a couple games this season, and then he pretty sure like a torn adductor or something like that, and he's out for the rest of the season. If he can stay healthy, I really like him as a rotational piece for that young Magic team. I feel like he can really, like him and Bull in that, and Mo Wagner possibly in that front court for the Orlando Magic, I feel like could fit really well. So I actually do think they're going to guarantee his contract, give him a little more money than most people would think, and I think they're going to keep him around. Hope he stays healthy. If not, then I could see him being waived mid-season or big player on the buyout market when that comes around the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think that he's going to get waived today since today's deadline. I think, like, yeah, he can be great, but you just can't, at this point, you can't trust him to be healthy. Just too many injuries, and yeah, I think he's going to get waived. I'm not sure what team he would most likely go, probably like a team like the Pacers or maybe even the Wizards, even though they're possibly on the come up with some guys that they've brought in.
Yeah, I mean, I could see either, but just knowing Orlando and the way they work, I feel like if they've kept him around this long, I feel like they're just going to keeping him around. I mean, it's sad. He tore his ACL in the bubble, and he literally has never gotten healthy since. It's really sad because Jonathan Isaac was a really good player. So, next guy on my list is Mo Bamba, who yesterday got waived by the Lakers. That was kind of expected. I don't think the Lakers had interest in bringing him back. There's some teams that I think would pursue him. I think I want my Warriors to go after him. He's a streaky guy. He's developed his 3-point shooting. He can kind of play that JaMychal Green role that he played for the Warriors. He might not be always in the rotation, but he can give you good minutes. So I feel like the Warriors are going to go after him. I saw a lot of rumors that the Chicago Bulls want to bring him in, and the Phoenix Suns, again, I think they're going to try to bring in this guy, Mo Bamba, because they're going to have some issues with that backup center position. I do think he's going to sign with Chicago for the minimum. I think he could fit well there, backing of Vucevic. So yeah, I think he's going to sign with Chicago just because all the rumors I've seen, it seems like it's going to happen. So I think it's going to happen. But I want the Warriors to try to go get him if they can't get a guy like a Mason Plumlee or a Kevin Love.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many reports of possibly Miami trying to get him, but I think I don't think it would hurt to get Mo Bamba on the Heat.
Yeah, I honestly think Miami could be a potential suitor, especially if they can't bring in who is it, Christian Wood, or bring back Kevin Love possibly. I think he could fit there, but I think Chicago's probably going to sign him. Next guy on my list is Denver Nuggets legend Thomas Bryant. He's a free agent. Probably even more disappointing than Reggie Jackson. I was really excited when they traded for him. I've always liked Thomas Bryant's game. He's a ferocious guy in the paint, great rebounder. It seemed as if he was. But then the Nuggets, they did, after they traded him, they gave him some time to settle into the offense, and then they did slot him in as that backup center to take over the non-Jokic minutes, and I was just not impressed at all, and obviously the Nuggets weren't either because he didn't play like a single meaningful minute in the playoffs. Yeah, so Thomas Bryant, I don't really see him coming back to the Nuggets. He got his ring. I feel like he's going to try to go elsewhere now. I think he's going to sign with the Suns for the minimum, and I actually think there's a chance he gets some money, some minutes there, because Thomas Bryant's not a bad player. I have no idea why he was bad when he had his chances with the Nuggets this season in the regular season. I have no idea why, but I think he could sign with the Suns. They could improve their front court depth coming off the bench, especially if they trade DeAndre Ayton. So yeah, but I could see some other contenders trying to sign him on the minimum for sure.
Yeah, he was definitely disappointing. I think the reason why it didn't really work out is because our play style was probably just a little too fast for him. Like the Lakers, when he was playing with them, they're not really that fast paced of a team, so that might have been why. but I think he could go to the Suns, but I think he might go to the Pelicans. I think that's where he's going to go
Mm,
because they're letting go Jackson Hayes
mm,
hit the free agency
mm-hmm.
market, so I see the Pelicans signing him.
Yeah, that's actually good for sure. I think he could definitely get some minutes there. But honestly, I don't know if it was the play style because from what I watched, he was just bad, dude. Like he was just missing easy shots around the rim. He was a bad defender. He was just bad. I don't know. I mean, I guess he just wasn't good with the Nuggets. I'm not sure. So next guy on my list is JaMychal Green, who signed a 1-year deal this past offseason with the Warriors. Didn't play very meaningful minutes in the playoffs. He started a couple games because Steve Kerr was experimenting with that. And he had some decent moments. So JaMychal Green, kind of a streaky guy. He's developed his 3-point shooting a lot throughout his career, and that's honestly probably like one of the main strengths of his game. Decent rebounder, pretty good spot up 3-point shooter. I think he's gonna re-sign with the Warriors for a minimum. He might not play as many minutes this season as he did last season with the Warriors, with them drafting Trace Jackson Davis, with Kuminga gonna get some more minutes there, and especially if they sign a guy like Torrey Craig or one of those wing perimeter players. But JaMychal Green's a pretty good player. I liked him. I didn't like him at first because his defense was not good at all. He was just terrible defender. But towards the end of the season, I think his 3-point shooting and his rebounding made up for it. He played some pretty good minutes in the regular season, and if the Warriors need him, I think he can give them some good regular season minutes. I think he'll be pursued by some other teams, but I ultimately have him re-signing.
Yeah, he's for a big guy. He's actually a really maybe not really good, but he's a pretty good 3-point shooter,
Mm-hmm.
good rebounder. He could be better defensively. I feel like when he was in Denver, he played better defensively. But I think he's going to end up going to Phoenix just because they need possibly like a bigger guy when Katie is out to be able to at least get him some buckets and maybe not facilitate the offense, but I think that he could fit in well with Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good stretch five. The only reason I wouldn't see him signing there is because Phoenix likes their traditional big man to be, unless they play JaMychal Green at the 4, maybe they could do that, but because, they have Jock Landale, Bismack Biyombo, they've had those guys, they had JaVale McGee the past couple years as their backup center, which is just traditional big man, but I think he could fit well there. I don't think he'll get anything more than the veteran minimum from any team this offseason, so he'll just have to choose wisely, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if he leaves, but I think he'll resign. So speaking of the Greens, my next one is Jeff Green, free agent. He was part of the rotation this whole year. I think as much as I love Jeff Green, I think next year if he returns, I don't think he can be part of the Nuggets rotation if they want to keep it up because he's just on a steady decline. But he was good this season. I loved Uncle Jeff. Obviously still crazy high flyer for his age. He became really good at that corner 3-point shot off the catch and shoot. But my prediction for him, I think he's gonna retire on top. I think in the next couple weeks or so he's gonna announce his retirement, and I think he's just gonna go out on top. He got his ring he always wanted, and yeah, that's my prediction. So that might hurt the Nuggets a little bit, but it'll create room for the growth of guys like Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, possibly Julian Strother.
Yeah, so he said like a couple weeks ago that he still wants to possibly run him back and hell even get like 2 more rings with Denver and finish his career here. But I think he should retire, but I don't think he will. I think he'll return because not many other teams are probably willing to give him much money. But I think that he's very good for Denver because while he might not give you 16 every other night, he'll give you like those tough buckets. He'll take a charge every now and then, which ultimately comes up really good. And like you said, he started to really hit those threes from the corner. So he's just one of those guys that might be like quiet, but ends up helping the team a lot.
Yeah, and he's just a good veteran presence in the locker room
Yeah.
for all the young guys even not the young guys in there. He just fits the Denver chemistry and the Denver mentality and everything. So I think if he doesn't retire, I agree. I don't think there's going to be another team that offers him anything more than the minimum. And if he's not getting more money than the Nuggets offer him, I think for sure he would stay with the Nuggets. So I think he'll either retire or stay with the Nuggets on another 1-year deal, but probably be out of the rotation. I would hope he is because I want to see the development of some of those younger guys rather than Jeff Green.
Yeah.
Next guy on my list, you were talking about earlier, Jackson Hayes. Uh, they didn't extend the qualifying offer to him, the Pelicans, so he is an unrestricted free agent. I don't think he's gonna come back. I'm actually pretty high on Jackson Hayes. A lot of people, they think he's like not that good a defender and like just like a strange player, but I've actually been pretty high on him throughout his whole career. He's a high flyer. He's an athletic guy. He's still pretty young. I think this is going to be a great signing for the Mavericks. I think the Mavericks are going to bring him back in on a 3-year deal. They're going to secure a long-term guy. They're going to get their big man depth, and they're going to get a good rim protector, and they're going to get pretty much a better JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee was there last season, and they're going to get a better JaVale McGee, a lob threat, a rim protector, a rim running guy who can space the floor as well, developing his shot. I think that would be a great signing for the Mavericks, and I think the Mavericks should give him good amount of money so that they can secure a good center, because that was the literally only reason they were horrible this season, because of their front court, and I think Jackson Hayes could flip that around.
Yeah, so I think Jackson Hayes is actually going to end up with Charlotte, because I don't think Charlotte's going to bring back PJ Washington. So like you said, he's a lob threat. I think he could fit in really well with LaMelo there. And what's the other point guard? Terry Rozier. Yeah, I think that he fits in really well with him.
Yeah,
so I would see him going.
I agree. I could see him there, but I feel like there's going to be other teams that are better that are going to want to give him, unless he gets a huge deal, then I can see that for sure. Speaking of the Mavericks and terrible defenders, my next guy on my list is Dwight Powell. I don't see a world where Dallas brings him back. If they do bring him back, they'd be extremely stupid, because Dwight Powell is horrible. Literally, he's horrible at basketball. I think he's going to sign with the Rockets. He was on the Rockets list of targets they want. He could play backup 5 minutes behind Şengün there, so I think he'll sign a 2-year deal there, and he could play some decent minutes and maybe be better there than he was past couple years in Dallas.
Yeah, I agree a lot. I think that his type of play style could possibly fit with Houston with Ime Udoka down there, and he's like I forgot his age, but I think for his age, he's pretty good. Just experience wise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One guy I want to talk about is Dario Saric, who I think he can still provide decent minutes at this point of his career. He was on the OKC Thunder this last year, but I don't think he'll return there. I think he's going to sign for a contender. I saw that the Warriors are interested in him. Phoenix might want to bring him back for a reunion. Ever since he tore his ACL, he kind of fell off a little bit, but he's still a good big man who can give you decent minutes. I'd like the Warriors to try to go after him. But I think he's going to return to the 76ers. He's going to sign a 1-year deal there. I think he could provide some decent minutes. Possibly replacing Paul Reed, who might leave in free agency. So I think he'll sign there.
Yeah, I think that Dario is going to end up probably. Man, I think the Warriors is because like they need a guy behind Kevon Looney. Mm-hmm. He's a pretty good leader. Maybe not leadership, but like veteranship, a guy that you need. But yeah, I like him going to the Warriors.
Yeah, I think for sure he would fit there, especially if they don't get a guy like a Mason Plumlee or like a Trey Lyles or something like that. I think they're going to be in the market for a lot of those, like, because obviously they don't play traditional big man ball. So I think they're going to be in the contention for a lot of those small ball fives or forwards. Okay, so that's all for those undrafted free agents. Before we wrap up, I want to get into this. There's some other restricted free agents where the teams around are going to have to make some decisions. So first guy on my list is Trey Jones on the Spurs. I think the Spurs are going to want to get rid of him because I think they want a new starting point guard alongside Wemby in San Antonio now. But I think he won't get any big offers from any other teams. I don't think those too many teams are intrigued by his play style and everything. He's just like, there's just players who play like him who are better that they can go get. So I think the Spurs are going to retain him just because they're going to be able to get him for cheap. I don't know if he'll start at point guard this season because of some other guy they might bring in. But yeah, I think the Spurs are going to bring him back.
Yeah, I think they'll bring him back and not play as much. Like I said, I saw it earlier in the episode. I said that maybe like they could bring in a guy maybe like Fred VanVleet, but even though he is asking for a high price. But yeah, I think they're going to bring him back and not give him as many minutes.
Yep, I agree. Another guy is Matisse Thybulle, who got traded to the Trailblazers during the deadline. Obviously, really good perimeter defender, but not the best scorer. I think the Nuggets are going to go after him. I think he could be that Bruce Brown replacement. Not as good, obviously, as a scorer, but pretty good, pretty similar as a defender. I think they're going to throw their mid-level exception at him, although that might not be the smartest move. I think they're going to throw it at him, but I think Portland's going to match because I think both sides, they have mutual interest in coming back. So I think Portland's going to match the offer from all teams, including the Nuggets. So, yeah, I think he'll come back to Portland.
Yeah, I think that the Nuggets have a good chance of getting him, but I think ultimately he will go back to the Blazers. Came in mid-season, and I think that he's finally going to be able to like fulfill his role there.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't really have too much time. He wasn't that good at the end of the season, but I think he can definitely give some good minutes. So I have two guys now that I think they're both on the Chicago Bulls. I think they're gonna have to make decisions between both of them. It's Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. I don't think they're gonna bring both back because they both play similar roles. They're gonna have to bring one back because if they don't bring either back, they're gonna have no guards on their roster. It's interesting. I had a tough time deciding which one they're gonna bring back because I saw a report today saying Kobe White likely to stay with the Bulls for about $10 million per 3-year deal, $30 million deal. But I've seen a lot of talk that Ayo Dosunmu was just a better point guard. So I'm gonna predict that the Bulls are going to match all the offers for Ayo Dosunmu, and they're going to retain him, and I think they're going to let Kobe White walk. I can see a team like the Celtics giving Kobe White a decent 3-year deal, and after losing Marcus Smart, I think that would be a huge get for them to play alongside Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon in that backcourt, and that would definitely put the Celtics on a different tier if they can get a guy like Kobe White. But I think the Bulls are going to pick Ayo over Kobe White.
Yeah, Kobe White's always been like kind of a weird place for me, just because like he had like when the Bulls had that first half of the season, I think the year right after the bubble, they were great, like with Derek Jones and Vukovic, but then they just started getting injured. But I think the Bulls are most likely to keep Kobe White. I think that he just plays better with them, in my opinion, but that's what I've seen from the little Bulls that I've seen.
Yeah, because Kobe White, he had like a good rookie season and like sophomore season, but he kind of like fell off a little bit, and I don't think he's been as good as the Bulls would have hoped him to be with how high of a draft pick he was. And Ayo Dosunmu, I think he's just younger and cheaper, so that's the main reason why I think the Bulls would bring him back. But last guy on my list for this episode is Jock Landale, restricted free agent from the Suns. I did say earlier that they're going to sign guys like Thomas Bryant, and they're going to be interested in other of those veteran minimum big men. But they love their big man. Obviously, they had both Jock Landale and Bismack Biyombo rotating as backup center, and a guy like Jock Landale, after taking minutes from DeAndre Ayton, I think they're going to definitely re-sign him. They can actually give him a decent amount of money, and they can match offers up to a pretty high amount, way higher than the minimum, which is what I expected him to get around there. But I think they're going to match all the offers, and I think they're going to bring him back, and he's probably going to be their backup 5 once again.
Yeah, I agree. He's fairly young. He's probably going to get even more minutes this year just because the Suns, even though they're keeping DeAndre Ayton, I think that Jock Landale like brought some energy to them because like obviously DeAndre Ayton, we know that he just played really bad in the series against the Nuggets. Just wasn't giving much effort. And we know like that meme bit now basically where he's just like sitting under the basket and just watching his teammates fight for the ball. But yeah, I like Jock Landale. I think he's going to play a lot better this season.
Yeah, I mean, dude, DeAndre Ayton, if you're getting your minutes taken by Jock Landale, then you have to re-sign the guy because he's basically your starting center. That was so sad, man. Yeah. Jock Landale taking your minutes as a first overall pick who just signed They literally matched the Pacers. Do you remember when the Pacers gave DeAndre Ayton that huge contract? The Suns matched it. Oh, and then they got Jock Landale taking his minutes. That's ridiculous, man. So that's all I have. If you have anyone else that I'm missing out on, let me know. But if not, that'll do it for our free agency special, longer episode. We hope you guys enjoy it. I'll have timestamps for those of you watching on YouTube. But we're excited for free agency. It starts a couple hours from now, and I'm going to be following all the moves. Free agency is one of my favorite times of the year, man. It's so fun, bro. I love keeping track of all the moves, all the rumors, everything. So I'm super excited for that. I bet you are too. So, yeah, if you have anything to say before we head out.
No, thanks for watching.
Yeah. All right. Nothing from us. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for some more episodes. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to the YouTube. Turn on notifications so you know when the recent episode is coming out. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next episode.